Welcome to the Intramural Wiffleball Captains Meeting. Please remember that your team must have at least 4 players on the roster by the end of registration in order to be scheduled for the league. As a captain, you have numerous responsibilities that contribute to everyone's enjoyment of the intramural program. The first and most important is that you understand all rules and policies and that you relay that information to your team members prior to competition. In the remainder of this video, we will review some of the basics of the program. However, should you have any questions or concerns, please email us at imsports@stolaf.edu. Remember that intramurals is a college-sponsored activity. Therefore, the administrative staff reserves the right to change any team name for any reason. Additionally, if a team name violates the college's code of conduct, the students involved may be charged by the dean's office. In most sports, during registration, you will have the option to set up time preferences for your team. When scheduling, we do our best to accommodate those preferences. However, it may not always be possible. If your team needs to make a schedule change, you must give at least 3 business days written notice for the reschedule to be considered. As with most things, the more notice you give, the better chance we will be able to accommodate. When games are canceled due to weather, we will look at the facility, time, and space available and do our best to make up those games. However, reschedules are never guaranteed. Your team's roster is an important responsibility for you as the team captain. For one thing, only players on the printed roster are eligible to play for your team in playoffs, so it is paramount that you get everybody added to the roster. Adding players to a roster is a 2-part process. First, you need to invite the players to the team on IM Leagues. Second, your teammates must accept the invitation by signing the electronic waiver. If a player is not on the roster, they can still sub or be added to the score sheet on site. However, they will need to present their student ID card to do so. Additionally, no team can have more than 2 club or varsity athletes in the same or a related sport. The rationale for this policy is to ensure that intramurals remains recreational in nature. If your team has questions or concerns about this policy, or would like an exception made, please email us. On game day, your team will have 5 minutes past the start time to get the minimum number of players checked into play. Once the 5 minutes have passed, the game will be called a forfeit and a loss for that team. For check-in, please remember that each player is required to initial next to their name. When a player initials, they are signing an agreement to some extent, so players should not be initialing for their teammates. As a captain, you may delegate your on-site duties to a teammate. These duties include the pre-game meeting with the officials, other communication with the intramural staff, and verifying the score at the end of each game. When checking into play, all players must present some form of ID. If the player is listed on the roster, the intramural staff will accept anything with their name and picture on it. This could be their St. Olaf ID card, a driver's license, or even a social media profile. However, if the player is not listed on the roster, that player must present their St. Olaf ID. There will be no exceptions to this policy to ensure that all participants are affiliated with the college. In intramural sports, there's nothing worse than showing up for your weekly contest only to find out that the opposing team will not be able to play. For this reason, it is your responsibility as a captain to inform the intramural office if your team needs to forfeit. This should be done by 5 p.m. or 2 hours prior to the game time, whichever is earliest. Your team will still be credited with a loss, but it will not count as a forfeit. This is important for playoff qualification purposes. Sportsmanship is of utmost importance in intramural sports. It is vital that all players are respectful of other participants, spectators, staff, and the facilities. Only the captain should be discussing decisions or calls with the officials, and this must be done in a respectful manner. Remember that our officials are students just like you, and they will make mistakes. However, incorrect calls do not justify verbal abuse, harassment, or threats towards the intramural staff. Thus, That type of behavior will not be tolerated. At the end of each season, a playoff bracket will be offered to crown the season's champion. The amount of facility time will determine how many teams will make the playoffs. At the discretion of the intramural staff, teams who have forfeited or had discipline issues may be disqualified from the playoffs. Remember that teams cannot add players or utilize subs during playoffs. The intramural program will cancel outdoor games due to weather when field conditions are poor or safety is at a higher risk. For indoor sports, games will only be canceled if the weather causes the college or the facility to shut down for the time. When these issues occur, cancellation decisions will be made by 3 p.m. on the day of the game. Captains will be contacted via email or phone when time allows. If decisions are made last minute, the intramural staff may email all players directly. For questions and concerns regarding the program, our contact information is listed below. Email or phone is preferred for most issues. Should you need an in-person meeting, we suggest you email or call first to set up an appointment. Moving on to the Wiffleball playing rules. While the game is played 4-on-4, teams may begin a game with 3 players. But remember, you must have at least 4 players on the roster before the registration deadline in order to be scheduled for the league. While only 4 players can be on the field at any one time, there is no maximum number of players allowed in the batting order. The game will be played to 7 innings, with at least 3 full innings required for a game to count. Additionally, no new inning can begin after 45 minutes of play. The mercy rule will go into effect after the 4th inning if the lead is 15 runs or more. The fielding team is required to provide a pitcher and 2 fielders. Additionally, if the team is at full strength with 4 players, they must provide their own catcher. If they are playing short-handed, the batting team will provide the catcher. When the fielding team throws the ball out of play, the runners are awarded 2 bases from the time of the throw. When pitching, the pitch must be thrown underhand at no more than a moderate pace, and the strike zone will be between the shoulders and knees and over the plate, just like in regular baseball. All at-bats will begin with a 1-and-1 count on the batter. Once the batter has 2 strikes, they are permitted 1 courtesy foul ball. A second foul ball on the last strike will be considered a strikeout. Bunting and sliding are not allowed in Wiffleball. Ghost runners will be used when the runner on base is next at bat. When a ghost runner is used, that runner only advances if forced. Additionally, the ghost runner can be put out by tagging the base and not the runner before all human runners have reached their base. Interference may be called when a runner impedes with a fielder's ability to make a play on a batted ball. This does not include thrown balls. However, the umpire may determine that the runner intentionally interfered with a thrown ball and could also call interference. In either case, the runner is out and the play is dead. No runners are permitted to advance. Additionally, the umpire has discretion to call other runners out should they believe that other runners would have been put out if the interference had not occurred. Thank you for reviewing this captain's meeting. Remember to take the quiz to get credit for this meeting, and have a great season.